Welcome to Agency Elevated Podcast. This is John and Jeanette Lucero, your hosts for this podcast, where we educate and inform the masses on everything life insurance. If you've been looking for a place to get your education and become better informed about everything life insurance, you are at the right place. As well, we are building a massive team of licensed insurance agents to build the fastest growing life insurance agency in the nation. If you've been looking for a team to join, you are at the right place. Now sit back and enjoy today's episode.
All right, welcome back to Agency Elevated. Thank you guys for being here. If you are on Spotify, you can turn your phone to landscape. I'm going to remind everybody because it's still pretty new. You can turn your phone to landscape and you can see us on our video in our studio. We're waving at our audience members. We are also headed over to YouTube, but things take time. So one step at a time. Getting a podcast really out there is actually not as black and white as I thought it was going to be. There's so many little pieces to it that moving parts to it. So I'm excited to be able to get there on YouTube, but we're not quite there yet as we're recording this here today. So we are going to bring a subject to you guys. And you know, I know we talk about this a lot on the podcast, that we have developed this and brought this to fruition for it to be very educational and very informative and practical and simple for people to understand. And especially because, you know, John here is the expert, you're the master, you've niched down in this, you're devoted to this product in this field. Whereas I'm over here more in the marketing side of things. I love the glitz and the glam and how to present things in a certain kind of way. So when we come together and you start talking about insurance, life insurance or financial services and products, and my head spins. So I'm here to help bring things to our audience members in my part in a simple way. So that's what I'm hoping to be able to do. And around the subject.
Yeah. So today our subject is actually very simple. It can get very complex, but we won't let that happen today. It's why life insurance? Like really, why life insurance? What is it all about? What is life insurance and why? And so I'm excited to share that with you. I think everybody needs to understand it and not make it so overcomplicated.
Yeah. And you know, one of the stories that I love to share is when we first moved to Arizona, you were in property management, and that's where we met. We met in property management. He was my boss. I don't know if we probably have not shared that yet. And that sounded so awful, like you hunted down one of your employees, but you kind of did. Anyway, so you were in property management and that position moved us to Arizona, but then you were saying...
Yeah, so I mean, I always tell the story, especially with people I bring into the business, because I never had any intention of going to insurance. Like most everybody I meet, nobody dreams of becoming an insurance agent. I'm yet to meet anybody that says my dream job was becoming an insurance agent. So, but I was in real estate property management, and I remember thinking this is going to be a management change or an ownership change. And when we were doing that, when we always had a free apartment, it was part of our salary package. I said, if this happens, we have to move, we lose our job. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and without knowing it, and I said, I remember coming home and I told you, I'm giving notice tomorrow. I'm going to give 30 days notice and I'll figure it out from there. And so that's what we did. And we looked at real estate. We looked at mortgages very briefly, but we landed up in insurance.
Yeah.
And that's where we landed up.
And I just remember you went for the interview, you decided that's what you wanted to do. And next thing you know, you were opening up an agency. And it was so terrifying. But the part that I love sharing that I think is relevant to today's topic is you built your insurance agency in 3 years predominantly off of life insurance. And it was for whatever reason, I mean, I really believe God places these things in our heart on purpose as part of our soul's evolution here, but we don't need to get all spiritual or anything. But I look at it like that was something that was placed on your heart with life insurance, but maybe you were not aware of it ahead of time. So looking back, you know, that was 3 years you were an agent, and then you got recruited into the company on more of a management side of things. And you've been there for 20,
a little over 17 years.
You were there for a little over 17 years. And now you're getting to focus. And even during that entire 17 years, you were still very, very focused on life insurance that whole time. And now we're in a position where you get to be like completely devoted to life insurance and financial services and not any other products, which is really cool. So I think the reason I share that is because I know for myself, as you know, when I look and reflect back in my life, when we dive into what we are so good at, there's success written all over it. And so I'm personally excited to see what you're going to do from here and what we're going to do from here, because I mean, we're really in this together now. This is something that we've come together on After almost 25 years of being together, we've come together. So it's really exciting. So why life insurance? Let's start with what we have a few questions we're going to run through, but what is life insurance?
I think that's the best question to start with, because I think it can get so complicated and people make it so much more than it really is. You hear names in the market like mortgage and protection or final expense, or there's just different types, but really basically life insurance is a policy that you can get through a carrier to protect your own life. And it's to benefit those that you leave behind. And it's basically the insurance company or the carrier takes on some of the risk by providing a substantial amount of money sometimes in the event of your death. And you get the benefit to provide to whoever you leave behind. So it's a very simple concept. And what I tell people, and we'll kind of elaborate on this more as we get into today's conversation, is I'm so passionate about it because it is the only product that is guaranteed to have a claim. It's the only product we can guarantee that all of us are going to die. And so when the premiums are paid, there is a benefit there. So that's why I'm very, very passionate about it.
And being around this industry indirectly, I should say, I've heard a lot of the chatter, both, the negative side and the positive side. Obviously, the positive side is when you see a family receive a check. I mean, obviously, you've seen that. You've come home and told me stories. And of course, that's ultimately what we want people to receive from this product. But then there's, of course, the chatter about, life insurance. Is it, is there I'm trying to think of some of the things I've heard over the years, but the negative chatter around it. And one of the things that I like to really preface it or frame insurance for myself, and especially life insurance, is the company and the carrier is taking a risk. There's no question about that. They have the money and an account or whatever, however they have the risk to where they can pay out upon, the loss of a loved one that has the life insurance policy on themselves. So I like to look at this as, if you know that the insurance company is taking a risk, but there's also some rules around this when it comes to life insurance, your best bet on the other side, coming from the client and the customer, is to just be informed, is to just be educated. And I know that we've talked about it a little bit on our previous podcast where, somebody maybe has life insurance through work and then all of a sudden maybe they lose their job or they switch jobs and all of a sudden that policy is no longer available. It's no longer there, but they've been paying into it. So there's just certain things that I think people really need to understand just a little bit more when they are getting set up into their life insurance, so that they are educated and they are informed, so that risk reward is way more balanced out versus, somebody paying into a policy that's going to end up expiring at some point and they don't really know what to do from there. So, okay, so that is what life insurance is. Now, why life insurance?
Yeah, so I think the biggest question with why life insurance, and you started to talk about it when you were just talking a minute ago, is that people need to understand it. They need to be educated. They need to be informed. And where I often, especially the space that I came from for the past 22 years, where I did multi-line insurance, I would see people every single day, myself included, that will go out and spend money on auto insurance every single day. They have to, it's mandated. They have to go home insurance because they have a mortgage, and they'll spend their money on it every single day. They don't necessarily like it, but they'll do it. And yet those same people, myself included, wake up every single day hoping to never get into a car accident, hoping that we never have a fire in our home. And yet we pay those premiums every single month. And think about it. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars on your insurance with the hope that you never use it. But yet life insurance is the one product that you are guaranteed you're going to use. Every single one of us is going to die at some point in our life. We never get to determine when that is. I actually put out a blog today and was talking about that it's guaranteed that it's going to happen. And the one thing is we don't know when that time is going to be. And so that's why life insurance is so important. It is actually the only insurance policy that you can buy that you are guaranteed to use. Now, of course, that means you have to have premiums paid. You have to have the policy enforced.
There's rules. There's rules to this, if you will, game of life. There's rules that we have to abide by. Of course, you got to pay the premium. Of course, this is why we want to help inform and educate.
Yeah, and that's just a component to think about it. But I would leave with the audience today, as you think about just insurance in general, and you think about life insurance, think about yourself. You look at every single month. What do you pay for auto insurance or home insurance? And you hope that you never use it. Or even more so, your cell phone insurance. People will spend money on their cell phone insurance because their cell phone will crack or break, and they'll spend money on that every single day and not think about life insurance. And why life insurance is so important, it is going to happen. It's inevitable. And oftentimes we leave somebody behind that has dreams, aspirations, visions that you want for their future that your income has a direct impact on. And when you're not here, that income can no longer help them. And that's why life insurance is so, so important.
Well, yeah. And especially for somebody like myself, that you've always been the breadwinner, directly the breadwinner. I mean, like I keep saying this, of course the support was there for you. Of course I had a part in it indirectly, but you've always been the breadwinner. So if anything were to happen to you, I have no clue how I would even sustain this lifestyle. Let's forget about the lifestyle. How would I go from where I'm at to generating an income that could even come close to what you've been able to supply for our family? So it is, somebody like myself, it's even extra, even more important, I would say. So why life insurance leads me to like, what are the benefits? But I'm already kind of answering that, Again, I think of somebody like myself, that I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years. I didn't have any income. I didn't have a job. I just was dedicated to the kids and our household for 13 years. And so that's when we really started to really look at our own life insurance, not just have, a single policy on you, a single policy on me. We started to look at it from more of a broad perspective on, different types of policies. That's actually when we got our first, I want to say we had term, and then we got our first
permanent policy.
Yeah. Or vice versa. We started getting a little bit of a portfolio back then. So I think about somebody like myself and the benefits for somebody like me, but what are some of the other benefits that people could receive having life insurance?
I mean, there's so many benefits to really think about. The number one is peace of mind. And I think about that every day. If something was to happen to me and I have 3 kids and I have you, that I know you're going to financially be taken care of. Okay. And the same thing applies the other direction.
Yeah.
You mentioned, hey, I didn't work out of the home. I didn't have a job, but what you do for our family has a financial impact. Somebody has to step up and do that. So if something was to happen to you, how do I continue to get to go to work every single day?
That's true.
And my kids be taken care of, and then the support that I'll need emotionally, morally. So it's peace of mind is the biggest benefit that's out there. There's benefits within, and we can have an entire podcast, but there's actual living benefits you can have in your policy where you can actually borrow against some of the capital that builds up in there. And there's different things you can do to help you to have a living benefit as well. But life insurance really is peace of mind. I tell people all the time, it's peace of mind insurance and it's love insurance. Mm-hmm. It's showing the people that you really care about, that you love.
I always say it's an act of love.
Most definitely. I mean, that's what it's all about. And again, I can't stop saying this enough. It's the thing that we know we're all going to experience. And so the right thing to do, and the thing to do to be morally and ethically sound, is say, okay, I need to be educated. I need to learn about this so that I know that the people I leave behind are taken care of at whatever level that might look like and whatever fits your budget to do that.
Oh, the tremendous deep level peace of mind that I have as a woman is I can't even describe to you. Okay, so I want to bring in that really quick on this question. What are the benefits? The acronym again. What was that acronym? 4 letters.
Yeah, so we talked about in another podcast, just a simple needs analysis that we use. We call it DIME, and it stands for debt. So you have D.
So these are the benefits. So some of the benefits are helping with the debt.
Pay off any outstanding debt that you might have.
Which this is all determined when you write the policy.
Yeah. When you work with someone like myself or a professional,
a financial advisor,
they should help you do a good needs analysis, see what you need to cover.
Right.
And a simple one, we use an acronym DIME. D stands for debt. What debts do you have outstanding that you want to be taken care of in the event that you're no longer here?
So that you are actually creating a policy that meets your needs, like truly meets your needs. This is why we want to talk about this. You could just write just a random policy on, I know you wouldn't, that wouldn't be ethical, but people could just write a random policy on somebody, like not even really look far into this. But when we're looking at it from the DIME perspective, we're actually creating a policy to best meet the customer's needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would challenge people that are listening in our audience right now is think about it. If you have life insurance today, how was that amount determined?
Right. Exactly.
And more often than not, it was determined by the agent. They just gave you a number.
Right.
They try to fit something into a budget, and it may actually not be what you need, and probably isn't enough of what you need. And so that's why using an acronym like this, and we have many different ways we can do this, but we talk about that. And so debt is one part of that. Income is another part. And we talked about it as far as for you and I. How do we replace an income that you're accustomed to having? And at least till you can adjust. Sometimes I say we use a 5-year multiplier. Maybe it takes you 5 years to adjust until you can get back on your own feet with your own income. So an income that has to be replaced. That's the I in that acronym.
Okay, so DI. Okay.
And then as you look at the M in that, that's for mortgage. Are you a person that actually has a mortgage? You have a house? Now, would I want for you and the kids to have to move out of the house if something happens to me? No, that's where my kids, that's their roots.
That would be like the only thing that we would actually really want is to just have that consistency of our home.
So how do you structure a plan that can either pay off a significant amount of your mortgage or pay off the mortgage completely. And that's where the M comes into play.
And again, this just, this is not the easiest subject even for me to talk about right now. I mean, even just having this conversation on this podcast, it's bringing up some stuff for me of like, oh my gosh, if I really lost you, what would happen if you really lost me? But the reality is one of us is going to go. I don't mean to laugh as if it's funny, but like, let's be real. One of us is going to go. So again, okay. So
real quick though, because I don't want to glaze over that. That's so important what you just said there, because what you feel is what I experience most of the time talking with people. They want to avoid the conversation because it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And who wants to think about it? And, if you're listening to this, think about it. Have you ever lost a loved one before? What was that like? I've lost my mom. I know what that experience is like. And when you lose somebody, it's a very emotional thing. People don't want to talk about what that loss looks like. And so, yes, it's difficult to talk about, but how much more difficult it is if you don't talk about it and you want to grieve and you have a financial burden on top of it.
Yeah. It's unimaginable.
So
literally.
And that's why I tell people that it's an emotional, but talking to somebody that's been around it, has experience with it. I've had numerous claims that I've had to deal with. I've had both sides of that equation where I've had the opportunity.
Yes, I know. There's one recently that you we'll come back and share that. Yeah. We'll come back and share that. Hold off on that story because I really want to share that. It was a very impactful story for us recently. And I also want to mention too that we're working on having somebody come in here hopefully very soon that has actually gone through the loss of their loved one, and they did receive the policy payout, and they ended up moving on in their life and becoming, well, I won't give it away.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Okay, so let's go back to the DIME, DIM, and then what was the E again?
So the E really comes into play if you're a parent, if you have kids, and education is important to you. So E is for education. For me, I've got one child that's in college. I've got one already through college. I have another one that we hope will go there. So I want to have a plan that they have.
Well, we don't know if we hope. What if he makes it to the NFL, dear?
Well,
we don't hope he goes. Let's just.
Well, he has to go through college at least 1 year before you go to the NFL. That's
okay.
That's kind of the rule. So, but
okay, then again, he's got to go to college.
But for a lot of families, that's what they think about. They want their kids to have some type of post-secondary education. And
something.
And
that feels better for post-secondary education. I like that.
So to have those funds set aside, that's something else you can do with life insurance, is to make sure if something happens before your kids get their education, that you can help fund it.
Okay, I have a random question. If somebody is a guardian, like what if they, when you say education, what if I've never biologically had a child, but I have like a niece or a nephew, or maybe I'm like a step parent, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think about, would that, you could, am I making sense?
No, I understand. So, and again, that happens a lot of times. I have a lot of people that they don't never
you can delegate it.
Yeah.
And is what I'm asking.
And that's all just designed in how you have beneficiaries. That's a whole different topic.
But it can be written in the policy?
Well, your beneficiary is written in your policy, but I'm sure we'll have another podcast, but there's things that you need to think about, wills and trusts and how to do those things.
Which can come with a financial advisor. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I did get us into a little bit of a rabbit hole. But I don't know. I just thought, if I'm wondering that, there's probably some other people that are wondering that, just because nowadays it's not, parenting is just not black and white. There's takes a tribe to raise a child, so, okay. Back on track. So my last question for you is when should somebody, when's a good time? When should somebody get a policy or start their life insurance?
Well, as silly as this probably sounds, but it is the truth now. And the reason I mean now is because every single one of us, you, me, everybody, all we're doing is getting older every single day.
What? We are?
Yeah. And it's just the reality of what our life is. We tend to get, as we get older, we age. Most people don't get healthier as they age. And so all of those are driving factors that can increase your premium. And so the best time is now. And I tell people the best policy you can have is the one that's in force. And so having something in force today is what's most important. And your lifestyle will change. My lifestyle is changing. Everybody's changes. This is not a one and done situation. They actually say the average person will buy life insurance 7 times in their lifetime. And so just know that where you start today is not where you're going to end. Today, maybe you don't have kids. And so your need is different, but maybe 3 years from now, you're married and you have kids and your life has changed. You can always reevaluate it and look at it. But the time is now. This is the best you're ever going to be right now.
Yep.
People don't like to hear that, but you're at the best age you're going to be right now. You're at the best health you're going to be right now. Yes, you might get healthier, but you could get older.
I was going to say the aging part is really, I think about how often we joke, especially once you start hitting your 40s. I'm 44, you're 46. We're almost 45 and 47. I don't know why I had to say that, but I think about how many times I go to get out of bed and like my hips hurting. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting old. And like, I'll get on Voxer with my girlfriends and I'll be like, girl, I can barely see my screen. Like, oh, we're getting old. And yeah, it's funny. And we joke around about it. And yes, we can get healthier. I've seen people get healthier as they age and that sometimes happen, but truly most people won't. And so I think that there's a lot of accuracy with you saying you're the best that you're going to be right now. But at the same time, like, just consider how often we just joke around about how we're getting older. And there does come a point where, heaven forbid something happens in your health, like something with your heart, something with anything. And then it becomes that much harder to get a policy or the right type of policy you want. I mean, things happen. And so the longer you wait, the more the odds are against you to be able to have that peace of mind and get set up in something that's going to serve your loved ones as that act of love when your time's up,
Yeah. I mean, I always use this, and I think everybody in our audience can relate to this. You see the person that, when do they finally get healthy? When they had a heart attack.
I know.
And they get to the gym and they get healthy because they had a heart attack and they had their wake-up call. And that's great. I'm not saying there's anything bad with that. But at the same time, when you start talking about life insurance, once you have had a heart attack, it makes it very difficult to get insured.
Yeah.
And so when it's time now that hey, I've got to make a change. I was given another second chance, whatever that looks like, you may not be able to do life insurance. And so, yes, you can always go and get yourself back in better shape. But those wake-up calls happen. And in life insurance, if they happen, sometimes you're not insurable.
You can't go back. Yeah, sometimes you just can't go back. And so I just want to say, this is, I hope this is received well. I really, really hope that this is received well. But I consider this proactive, being an advocate for yourself, and smart to get ahead of the game. And I look at it like, man, good for us that you and I got ourselves, I'm just thinking like in our lives where we were proactive and we got ahead of the game. Good for us that we started saving money when we were like broke as a joke, like even putting $25 away, we didn't have it. We were like in so much credit card debt. We had student loans, like all these things, but we somehow, somewhere along the way started getting ahead of the game a little bit. And then next thing you know, like our savings account started growing. And I mean, then we started we bought a second house. Like, I mean, like all these things where it starts with that first step of being proactive, getting a little bit ahead of the game. And in my opinion, and I like I said, I hope this is received well, it's smart. It's just simply smart. So we always leave our information in the description so you guys can contact us. You can, I think that even on, in the section, there's like a Q&A on Spotify now to where you can leave questions. Awesome. I want to say, yeah. So don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive if you're on YouTube, you can leave questions, but we will leave our information so that you can contact us. You can, maybe just get the ball rolling and just seeing like, how does this feel to talk about this for yourself and to look into this? So,
well, I think that's the biggest thing. And I that's what we want to bring to the audience as much as we can. It's just, this is information, it's education. And if anything that we just get you to at least ask a different question, yep. That's what we want to do. If you ask a different question or you feel comfortable to ask the question, we'd love for it to be through us. But if you just ask the question, that's what's most important. And because I know that there's people that maybe not are telling you this, but there's people that want to make sure that you're taken care of.
Yeah.
And like my kids, they ask me the question, hey, Dad, what do you have for life insurance? Something should happen.
Yeah.
And so they care about those things.
The ones around you do want to know that. And it's one of the most difficult questions to ask. Yeah. So, and I just want to say to anybody listening to this, whether man, woman, married, not married, kids, I like whoever you are listening to this, there's no coincidence in that. I don't see any coincidence in that. I consider that the universe or God or source or, what, how you refer to it, that is a ping. That's a ping. That's like you're being tapped on the shoulder right now to take some sort of action. Now, what that action is exactly, I mean, of course, I don't know. Maybe it's you go home and have a conversation with your mother or your father, or maybe you're a child to somebody and, the mother and father, but either way, whatever role you play in this, there's something that's being asked of you right now. And I don't consider that a coincidence if you're on here listening to this right now. So with that said, take action. You know what it is. Each person, we all know what it is. Take action. No, don't have regrets.
I couldn't say it any differently. I think that's just so important. If you're listening to this message or you heard this message, there was a reason behind it. There's so many other things that you'd be listening to right now, watching or going through. And so just, take action, whatever that looks like for you. If it means I'm going to go home and just talk to my spouse and just find out what her or his concerns are, that's a start. And so that's what I would just challenge you to do. Maybe you talk to your benefits person where you work. But if something came up in your mind today that said, hey, I'm uncomfortable, I'm feeling something in my stomach around this, I think that's just a little bit nervous energy, that's a sign that you probably need to look deeper into it and just continue to get educated. And we'll keep bringing you messages to kind of share what we know, what we're learning, because I care about everybody, that they understand this as the best that they can.
Yeah. Or if you're just like somebody like me, where you're more like childlike and you're inquisitive and you're just curious, like you have questions around this, you're wondering certain things, go after those questions. That's divinely led, in my opinion. So, okay, well, I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Another episode of Agency Elevated. Thank you guys for being here again. And we'll see you next episode. If you have a subject that you want us to really dive into around life insurance and financial services, we're here for that. We're here. We're devoted. This is it. We're here. So let us know if there's anything, and we'll do our best to bring it to you guys here on this podcast.
Yeah. And I will just kind of leave you guys with this. It's probably down in the comments in our section. Check out our website as well. I do a blog in there with other information you can check out. It's agencyelevated.com. Great way to connect with us there as well. We do appreciate you listening, and we want your feedback. If there's a topic that you want us to cover, get it to us. We're going to be working on getting some guests on here as well. So appreciate you guys being here today.
All right, you guys, till next time.